He integrates his experience as a corporate trainer, stage actor, a radio personality, voiceover artist, and award-winning Toastmaster into each of his dynamic workshops. During each workshop, he will introduce participants to processes and methodologies that guarantee speakers, presenters, trainers successfully connect to their audience, ensure the audience understand the information, and work through any nervousness. Ladies and gentlemen, David Doerrier.
Wow. Thank you, Farookh. Sounded like you were introducing a whole different guy, but thank you very much.
Hi, thanks a lot, David. David, it's an honor and pleasure to have you on our show. Ladies and gentlemen, I know David for last 6 years. Am I right, David? Was it 6 years back?
It's got to be at least 6 years, yeah.
Yes, 6 years back. Though we are seeing for the very first time, we are seeing face to face. We are putting the picture and the voice together. I met David online around about 6 years back. I was looking for a voiceover artist for one of my programs that I had designed for the airline, for the pilots. It's called the Dangerous Goods Regulation. It's a huge topic. And I was looking for somebody who can match, looking for a voice which can match to the particular presentation. And I found many people, but David was the best choice. And let me tell you, after many years, even now, I go back to David and say, David, you have to come and help me in your voiceover. David, thank you very much. And this is the very first time I'm seeing. I want to hear a lot about you and know more about you. You are a corporate trainer. You are a stage artist or a performer. You are a radio personality. You are a voiceover artist, and you are an award-winning Toastmaster. Who are you? Who are you actually? Tell me.
Who am I actually? Well, I'm still trying to figure it all out after all these years. But this is, again, thank you very much for this opportunity for us to see each other. So who am I? Yeah. Well, I've been involved. I've been very lucky in my career. I started out, I've always had a dream that I wanted to be in radio broadcasting. Ever since I was a kid, I've been fortunate to have a good voice. I didn't realize it as a child, but neighbors, mothers, fathers would comment about that I had a nice voice. I was fascinated with radio. I went into the U.S. military when I was 18 years old in 1976. And while I was in the military on Guam, I had an opportunity to start working at an AM radio station. And because of my years in radio broadcasting and because of my years in military, radio broadcasting continued. The military offered me an opportunity to become a trainer. That's where I learned how to design training, write training, deliver training on a daily basis. Through the radio, I ended up being an actor in community theater. All of these extroverted type of careers or activities, for me, being a guy who's very introverted. So I went and because being so introverted and being so having such a fear of being in front of people, I looked for processes and ways that I could work through that. And that's what I've developed with my Present Your Way to Success. I call it a new business only because the website is new, or the website is still being created. The LinkedIn and the name and all of these things are newly being put together. However, I've been training this stuff. I've been training these methodologies and processes on how to best connect with your audience, how to work through the fear, how to come across to your audience as being a professional. I'm not saying that people need to throw a lot of nonsense at their audiences. How to best convey your message to your audience so your audience then will leave understanding what you had to say. So I guess that's a little bit about me and what I do in a nutshell.
There are some people who are introvert, but once they come to their own platform, they shine very well. So so your platform, what is your platform where you show who David is actually, the actual David?
So that's a great question. So I think what it is how to separate that introverted David and what you were saying earlier about mingling with people, small talk with people. I have the same struggles with that. If I'm in a party, I'd rather be the guy sitting over on the side of the room just observing everybody else in the room. But when it comes to being on stage, or when it comes to being in front of an audience in a classroom, I feel in control, not only because I know my content, but also because I know methodologies, processes on how to best engage with my audience. It's not about being in charge. It's not about being, I am in command. In a way I am. I am the orchestra of this classroom. I am facilitating this classroom, keeping us on schedule, keeping us on on focus with what our objectives are for the day. And I get a lot of satisfaction with that. The biggest satisfaction that I get is the ahas, is when my audience understands what the information that I'm conveying. That we're learning a new process, or we're learning how to accomplish a new task, or use a new piece of machinery of some sort, or how to best be more effective in selling our product. Whatever that topic happens to be, if my audience leaves there, aha, yes, I get it. I know, I understand it. That's the biggest thrill for me.
Wow, that's great. What is the main challenge that you see in the new trainers, the new generation trainers? This has nothing to do with generalizing, but what is the challenge that you find in them?
Well, that's another great question, Farookh. I've worked with a variety of trainers, people that are brand new to training, who have never done it before, to people that have been trainers for a number of years who need some feedback on how they're coming across to their audience. So I think that the biggest struggle that I see, especially for new trainers, in many cases, the new trainers that I've worked with were people that were subject matter experts. This is the guy in the back room who created the software. So because Paul, the guy in the back room who created the software, he must be the best guy to be our trainer, because he knows everything there is to know about this piece of software. The struggle is two things about that. Number one is that the developer, who's now a trainer, will train everything about that piece of software. Everything, how it was built, why it was built, what does this thing do, what does that thing do, and all the customer needs is this. The customer just needs to know this little piece right here to do their job. So that's one of the struggles, is that and I'm not going to fault the developer, because they just don't know. They think, I'm a trainer, so I'm going to train everything, and they're not listening to their audience. The other struggle is that, and this is across the board with all trainers, is that I learn this way. I learn with audit. I'm just using an example. I'm auditory. I'm an auditory learner. So everybody must learn exactly the same way I do, and not understanding that they have a classroom full of people that are auditory learners, that are kinesthetic learners, and that there are visual learners. And so me as a trainer, I have to mix it up. I have to have a combination of different I have to accommodate those different learning styles. So I would say those are the two biggest. The biggest would be understanding that there are different learning styles. People are different than me. Not everybody's like me. And the other is just again, not understanding my audience and just giving them too much information, doing a data dump and not understanding what the customer really needs to understand.
Wow. Now, David, you are a master trainer, and I know that you have come up with a new product or a program which says, present your way to success. Could you take us through that?
Sure. As I said earlier, I've been teaching this stuff in corporate America for about 20 years. These are two different philosophies and processes on how to connect with your audience. It's just now that I'm taking it outside of corporate, and my target audience right now, well, anybody that wants to connect with their audience, but right now I'm working with small business owners who need to have that confidence to speak at a networking event, or be maybe a keynote speaker at that networking event, or be able to connect best with their audience so their audience truly understands what they're selling, or what their new product is, or their cause. It could be mom who's now a part of the PTA at school or things like that. So two philosophies. One is based on Malcolm Knowles, his adult learning principles. And this one it's Malcolm Knowles has 5 learning principles. Mine has 8 learning principles. But it's based on, for example, for one of the principles is the principle of primacy and recency, meaning firsts and lasts. That throughout my presentation, that people are going to remember firsts and lasts. Yep. For example, they're going to remember my opening. My opening has to be strong. My opening has to capture my audience's attention. An example of a last would be my conclusion. My conclusion has to be strong and impactful and give people a reason to take action on whatever that, whether it's a new process, whether I want you to buy my product or come to my workshop, whatever, I've got to give a strong ending.
David, 20 years of working in corporate America as a trainer, instructor, facilitator, etc. What is that you would like to share yourself with the young trainers who are getting into the profession of training or speaking? What is your advice to them?
I think the biggest thing is understanding your audience, understanding the differences between me, my learning style, and what my audience's learning style is.
Okay.
Getting feedback. Have to get, especially if someone is new, is to get lots of good feedback on their performance. Videotape themselves of when it comes time, possibly if that trainer is writing the material, if they're the subject matter expert, for example, writing the material and envisioning themselves teaching it at that time. That's the way I'm also an instructional designer. So I have that background where now, because I'm also a facilitator, when I'm writing my material, when I'm writing my lesson plan, I'm envisioning what kind of questions might I get. Now I've included this information. What kind of questions do I think I may get from my audience because of this? And I would say another would be, like any skill, practice, 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 practice. I've been a member of Toastmasters for a number of years. Toastmasters is certainly a great place to get up in front of people on a regular basis to get feedback about your presentation skills from your fellow members. And they have Toastmasters clubs all over the world. When I was in the military, I went to not only here in Georgia, but also I was in Turkey for a while. I went to Toastmasters clubs there. Saudi Arabia for a little while. I was in Toastmasters Guam and Hawaii. They're all over the world. So I would say practice, practice, practice. Getting good feedback, if you're in a corporate environment, would be your manager or one of your peers. But I'm talking about feedback, not just, hey, Dave, you did a great job. Now let's go to lunch. It's more about my eye contact. Did I say Did I convey the message properly? Did you hear my voice?
Yep.
How was my questioning technique with my audience? Did I give my audience enough time to answer questions? This is one of my pet peeves. Pet peeve number 1 with trainers. And that is when a trainer asks a question, are there any, it would be, so what questions do you have? Okay, let's move on to the next. So they don't give their audience enough time. So I talk about, you got to give your audience at least 7 seconds. So if you ask a question, stop, pause, give them some time to think, because everybody thinks, and this is, you asked me earlier about what are some of the struggles. I think the struggle is just basic presentation skills that people have. I've been teaching this stuff in a variety of places in corporate America, in adult community type training environment, adult education, and several other places I've taught this material. And the biggest thing that comes out of that is, Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian, talks about that the number 1 fear in the world is speaking in public. The number 2 fear is dying. So we would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy. And that is so true. Even myself, I have fears before I go up in front of an audience. My nerves, I just like anybody else. However, I've developed some techniques that help me build a foundation. And that's what I provide. I think that, all of this ramble is done brings me to this, where it's all about creating a foundation that if you understand the ABCs of what it takes to present to your audience, you can always rely on that. You can always go back to that, because just like building a house, you can't have a strong structure unless you have a strong foundation.
Yep. David, I always get this question, why should I be a speaker? I'm not a speaker, but why should I learn how to speak in the corporate world?
That's a great question, because I get that question a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I learn speaking skills? Why should I go to Toastmasters? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be a trainer, or I'm not a trainer. I have no aspirations to be a trainer. I have no reason to be thinking that I'm going to be a speaker in this organization.
Mm-hmm.
So my response to that is that no matter where you are in the organization, having good speaking skills is going to help you in a number of ways. One of those ways is that there are times when you may have to get in front of your peers and present something about maybe a project that you're working on. There are times that you may have to get up in front of just your manager to talk about your job performance.
There
may be times when you're looking for a new job, or maybe looking for a promotion in the organization that you are now. The more proficient someone is with being confident with speaking skills, the better the chances are that that individual will move up in an organization, will be more productive in that organization. For example, if it's possible that someday this individual may move into a leadership type role, or managing others. So having that confidence to not only be in front of my team to talk about projects, but also when there are those difficult conversations to have with your not only a coworker, but someone who is reporting to you. That difficult conversation could be their job performance, or maybe it's gotten to the point where now I have to let that person go from the organization. So having basic speaking skills can help an individual in their current position. It could help them to move up in an organization, on a job interview, or just maybe at their place of worship. Maybe they're asked to give the announcements one day. So it could help in a variety of different ways. So, and I also teach the WIFM, what's in it for me? Sometimes I'll say radio station, WIFM, what's in it? So what's in it for me to be a more proficient speaker? And I think I've just covered that with that it's going to improve someone's confidence level. It's also going to, and I've heard this so many times, if a leader is looking to fill a position within their organization, and they're looking at two people who have identical skill sets, but one person has much better speaking skills than the other one, which one's going to get the job?
For sure.
More than likely, the individual that has the better speaking skills.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do agree that this is also going to help you as a candidate for an interview as well.
Exactly. So if I have good speaking skills, not only face-to-face, if I'm not confident, whereas if I go into that job interview, him and haw and look at the ground and shuffle my feet, I may know the answer to all of the questions, but I don't project that confidence to this individual who's the hiring manager, or maybe the individual who may be my new boss. If I'm not projecting that confidence, that's going to certainly make or break my chances of getting that position.
David, thank you very much. It was really an honor to invite you and for being in our show. Thanks a lot. There's a lot of things to learn from you.
Well, thank you very much, Farookh. This has been a great opportunity, and also a great opportunity to meet face-to-face for the first time. Like you said earlier, we've known each other for 6 years, and I'm looking forward to our relationship just continuing to blossom from this point forward.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, and you take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.